Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my weekly check-in for the first and second week of March. So for the first week of March, I'm going to be checking in from March 1st through March 7th. And then for the second week, I will be checking in from March 8th through March 14th. So let's get started with the first week. So starting off with the first, I spent $8 out of my restaurant's envelope at McDonald's. So 8 out of restaurants. Next, on the first, I spent $5 out of my groceries envelope at Rayleigh's. Okay. And then on the second, I spent $29 out of my spending envelope at Target. And that was on the second. And then on the third, I spent $21 out of my spending envelope at Chevron. So that is 21 out of spending on the third. Next, on the third, I spent $54 out of my groceries envelope at Walmart. So 54 out of groceries. Next, on the fourth, I spent $34 out of my restaurant's envelope at Round Table. So that is $34, and that is on the fourth. Next, on the fifth, I had a no spend day. So no spend for the fifth. And then on the sixth, I spent $15 out of my beauty sinking fund to get my eyebrows done. So that was 15 on the 6th. And then on the 6th, I also spent $100. I went to brunch, and that was $100 total for everything. And I did that as unbudgeted. That's for the 6th. And then next on the 6th, I spent $44 out of my gas envelope at Chick-fil-A. That was 44. And then on the 7th, I spent $54 out of my gas envelope at Costco for gas. And then that is all. So now for the check-in portion. Starting off with gas, I spent a total of $98. Gas started off, ooh, I'm writing it in the wrong spot. Okay. So on this side, so gas started off with $120, groceries with $100, restaurants with $50, spending with $50, miscellaneous with $50, fun with $80. Okay, so I spent $44 and $54, so that is a total of $98 out of gas. So spent $98. I should have $22 remaining. For groceries, I spent $5 at Rayleigh's and $54 at Walmart. So that is $59. I should have $41 remaining. For restaurants, I spent $8 at McDonald's, $34 at Round Table. So that should be $42. So spent $42. I should have $8 remaining. Now for spending, I spent $29 at Target, $21 at Chevron. So that should be $50. Spent $50, $0 remaining. Now for miscellaneous, I didn't spend anything. And then for fun, I didn't spend anything either. So miscellaneous, I spent 0. Fun, I spent 0. So we have 50 remaining and 80 remaining. And then from budgeted, we spent 100. Okay. So that is all for week 1. Now for the second week of March, and that's going to be from March 8th through March 14th. Really quickly, before I get started with the check-in, I'm just going to transfer the amounts. So gas is starting off with 22, groceries with 41, restaurants with 8, spending with 50, and then miscellaneous. Oh, did I mess up? 22, 41, 8, 0. Okay. Okay, so I did this wrong. So spending is 0. Spending is 0. Fun is 50. And then, miscellaneous is 50. And then fun is 80. Okay, so now let's get started with the check-in. Starting off with March 8th. I spent $80 out of my fun envelope at the liquor store. So that was $80. Next, on the 9th, I had a no spend day. So no spend day on the 9th. On the 10th, I spent $22 out of my cart maintenance to buy, I forget the name of it, but those like sun shield things for your windshield for like the sun. So I bought one of those because the one that I had before broke. So that was $22. And then on the 10th, I also spent $24 out of my miscellaneous envelope at McDonald's. So that was 24. Next, on the 11th, I spent $26 out of my groceries envelope at Walmart. So 26 out of groceries. And then on the 11th, I also spent $99 at Topgolf, and that came out of my birthday sinking fund. That was also on the 11th. Okay. And then on the 12th, I spent $15 out of my groceries envelope at Starbucks. So that was 15 on the 12th. Okay, and then on the 13th, I spent $8 out of my restaurant's envelope at McDonald's. Okay, and then on the 13th, I also spent $6 out of my miscellaneous envelope at Taco Bell. That was $6. Next, on the 14th, I spent $12 at Chipotle, and that came out of my miscellaneous envelope. And then I also spent $5 at Rayleigh's, and that also came out of miscellaneous, and then $2 at McDonald's. That also came out of miscellaneous. So there's that. And that. And that is all for my spending. Now for the check-in, starting off with gas. I didn't spend anything out of gas. So gas should have $22. So 0 spent. Remaining 22. Next, for groceries, I spent 26 at Walmart and 15 at Starbucks. So that should be $41. So spent 41, 0 remaining. For restaurants, I spent 8 at McDonald's, and I believe that is all. So I spent all of the money in restaurants. So 0 remaining. Now for spending, nothing out of spending because I didn't have anything. Miscellaneous. I spent 24 at McDonald's, 6 at Taco Bell, 5 at Rayleigh's, 2 at McDonald's, and 12 at Chipotle. So that would be $49. So $1 remaining. And then for fun, I spent 80 at the liquor store. And then that is all. So spent 80 and 0 remaining, and then nothing for unbudgeted for this week. Okay, so that is all for my weekly check-in for the first and third week of March. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and thank you guys so much for watching.